All right, we can go ahead and call the regular board meeting of the Millersburg Area School District to order. We'll start with a moment of silence. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary, call the roll, please.
Mr. Eggleston?
Here.
Mr. Enders? Mrs. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Present.
Mrs. Mungold?
Here.
Mr. Nobinger? Here. Mr. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Minnick?
Here. And Mr. Enders did let us know this afternoon he wouldn't be there.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone signed up for public comment?
Nobody is signed up.
Okay. Let's do the nutrition group presentation since it's up on the screen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jen Sigler, and I'm a regional manager for the nutrition group. And this is Lori Lehman. She's the director of food and nutrition here at Millersburg. We just want to take a few minutes of your time tonight and talk about a few new refreshing ideas for the 2022-2023 school year. So within the past few years, we have been forced to adapt to our TNG standards in order to meet all of our COVID regulations. But now we're back in full force and ready to adapt and change to a new normal. So every year, we actually meet with our directors of food and nutrition at our annual summer seminars. We actually complete these trainings in order to meet all of our trainings that are regulated through PDE and USDA. This year, our training was actually about synergy and how we all work together as a team to achieve more.
So me and other food service directors got to enjoy a spa day at the Mohegan Sun Casino at Wilkes-Barre. And at that training event, we got to do what was called a food truck frenzy. And we got to assemble basically an actual food truck out of cardboard and come up with a menu and recipes and like a theme. And we also some of us even got to do up some music. One guy even made like a rap, and so it really built up like teamwork.
And I can honestly say I've been with the nutrition group for almost 9 years, and this was absolutely one of the best team training events that we've ever held. So really good. Another annual event that we actually hold, this is actually for our team members, is our professional development days and our opening meetings. This actually gives our directors the opportunity to train the team members and give them their training that is regulated through PDE and USDA. This was also based on synergy.
And we did a food truck frenzy also. The staff, that's what they're doing there in the pictures. And they also got to learn about sanitation, safety, production, and HACCP paperwork.
And something also to share with this is I feel as if we're very lucky to have all of our team members. Sometimes we may take that for granted, but we don't even realize like how creative they all are and how much we actually depend on them.
And here is the staff here at Millersburg. As you can see, we have our secondary staff up in there in the middle. That's Sandy and Heather and Anna and Daisy. She is one of our new staff. And at Lankerville in the bottom right is Martina, Janet, and Billy. And Billy is our manager at Lankerville, and our manager here is Anna. And Anna and Sandy and Heather have all been here for over 10 years. And we are actually almost fully staffed. We've been almost fully staffed all year. We just hired a new person over at Lankerville, so then we will be fully staffed. So we've been very fortunate in that sense. And you all do an excellent job.
So we do have goals for our school year. Some of them include increasing our breakfast sales at the high school by the end of December to 80 meals. At the beginning of the school year, we were serving approximately around 30. And now currently we are at about 150. So with the increase, that will bring us to a good budget. Another thing we would like to do is bring back our pre-COVID expectations. Some ways of doing this are actually by showcasing our entrees and plate displays and menuing new items. We've all been so forced into the past with COVID, and we're trying to get back to the normal. We will increase our a la carte sales actually by showcasing specialty items in the secondary. And lastly, we will increase our special function sales, and we'll do this by revamping our catering menus.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. Our first one there with the increasing breakfast. My plan is to have special events, like maybe here at the secondary. What I'm planning on doing is have smoothies, because the kids just want to grab their breakfast and go. And the breakfast is all in one. And with it being free, we can benefit from this and up our sales really easily. I did this before at another account that I ran, and it worked out great. Kids, they just want to go. They don't have time. They're always running late, whatever. I'm hoping to be able to do that here at the secondary for the smoothies. And at the elementary school, I'm hoping to be able to go over and help the staff out there to help serve like a hot breakfast, we got scrambled eggs, tater tots, those type of things. I'm hoping to increase those numbers there as well for that. We're already doing over 100 breakfasts there, and it's challenging sometimes to get all those kids through, but I feel like if we can, once I hired this new person on and we got that going, then I think that will help the situation. And as far as bringing back pre-COVID expectations, one of the things that I'm in the process of doing is bringing back Yak and Pack, which is involving the youth and the parents in the food service department. And we have meetings and we discuss what's on the menu, and they actually get to build a menu for a day. Or they have suggestions on items. They get to sample things and give me suggestions of what should be on the menu. As far as increasing a la carte sales, which you mentioned, I have a few ideas as far as that goes. I've been working for the company for 8 years now, so I've had a lot of experience. I started off as a manager, or actually as a cook, and then a manager for many years. So I've been a food service director for the last 2 years, and some of the things that I've done is the pudding parfaits with the cookies and pudding that sells great at secondary, churros, cinnamon sugar pretzels. We can do yogurt parfaits, those type of things, and sell them a la carte, and that will help the a la carte sales. And they're somewhat nutritious. Most of the stuff is. And then also increasing the catering special function sales. I'm planning on making an actual catering menu just for Millersburg. It will not say the nutrition group. It will say Millersburg's catering by the nutrition group. So I'm planning on doing theme. Whether it's like the Italian theme or like a barbecue theme, and try and get some of these sports teams and to bring me on and to do their banquets and those type of things. So that's my plan. Perfect.
So this year, our corporate chefs actually developed a 6-week menu cycle. The reason we all know that we've been dealing with a lot of food shortages and inflation. So the main reason this actually occurred is actually to aid in those shortages and also to keep our food costs in line. So as you can see here on the screen, there's a lot of good examples here that our students and our staff really enjoy, including our signature pizza, our ham and cheese pinwheels, the yogurt parfait. So if you are in any of our schools, please stop by and try a sample. And the nutrition group is actually excited to bring on board some new nutrition education programs for the school year. Basically, this is actually to promote everyday nutrition within our cafeterias on a daily basis. These events, there is a lot of information that has been supplied to our directors through our marketing director, and we do plan on holding these events within our cafeterias during our lunch services.
And these are some of our marketing campaigns. I mentioned about doing the smoothies here at the secondary. That's the one here in the bottom right. And the excited about breakfast up in the top right. We're planning on implementing them into there. And the reason I picked that was because breakfast is free. So I figured that would only help in so many ways to get the kids to eat breakfast, get excited about breakfast and starting off the day. But it's not just that, it's the fact that they're free. I can really get kids to take breakfast a lot more easier and up those numbers. And this is our marketing calendar. I have different things. Oh, it feels like probably almost every day. We have what's called Farm to Fork and Wellness Wednesdays. We did a roasted sweet potato salad the other day. It was absolutely amazing. Today we had the pulled pork barbecue over macaroni and cheese here at the secondary. The kids loved it. I think we sold around like 80 to 90 of them, and that was like half the students took it. So that went great. We have our Thanksgiving feast on Thursday, and we have a little celebration there on Friday at Lankerville. We're going to do Mickey Mouse's birthday, and we're going to make the pizzas the shape of Mickey Mouse and the sandwiches the shape of Mickey Mouse. So I think the kids will really enjoy that. So we'll have it full decorated. And this was our open house at the beginning of the year. We had a little bit different this year. Now that, we're over COVID and everything, we were able to bring all the parents and students in an open house. So it was awesome. And we got to hand out free samples. And I've seen that the parents and the kids really enjoyed that, got to sample all the food and encourage those kids that maybe are not eating lunch or to try the food so that they can start eating lunch. So we had pizza, macaroni and cheese. We also had our new item, the paninis, and we had like the display of fruit and everything so they could see what a typical day looks like in the cafeteria for the students as they come through the line. And even at Lankerville, they got to practice the numbers, putting them in. It's a big deal.
So this is just a snapshot comparison of our daily participation numbers from pre-pandemic to last school year, and also our budgeted numbers per day this year and where we're at now. So as you can see, our breakfast and our a la carte are exceeding our budget. Our lunch is just a little bit under, but we can tell you already within November we have exceeded our budgeted number already. So, but we're looking to, I know Lori can actually share some numbers even from this week. So.
Yes, yesterday breakfast was 156 and lunch was 387. So we're actually, we're approaching the 400, so that's great. And it's not free, so.
So we're very excited to be working with the Millersburg School District and to be providing the best customer service and nutritious meals to both our students and our staff. If you ever need anything or have any questions, please feel free to contact Lori or Braun if he's here, or myself. We're available for anything. thanks for giving us your time tonight, and we hope to have a great program this year. So does anybody have any questions at this time for us?
I'm just sad that I missed the pulled pork and the mac and cheese.
I ate it.
Yeah.
We'll have it again.
Leftovers for him.
Thank you.
Any questions? So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Crabtree Warbaugh and Associates.
Okay, I just heard that last one.
Do we still have the clicker? Should I come to the back?
We do have one.
Hi.
And so everybody has the latest and greatest document in front of them. Just before, I asked for these to be printed because it's a little different than what we saw, like what was included on Friday. And I didn't know how many people would actually get to look at it today, so I wanted them in hand so that we have the latest and greatest. And I believe the highlights are things that have changed. Yeah. Okay. You have the floor.
Sorry, I'm making sure I remember which is what button. What's up here? So while you're looking through that, there's some things that are highlighted that changed that were very simple. There was a typo on a page. We added page numbers. There was a repeated word that we had was originally constructed, comma, was originally constructed. So there's some things that were taken out that are like that, that I'm not sure are highlighted, but there might be those items. There was a switch from, we said it was in the LGI, which is the room that we're in. We are actually going to be in the auditorium, so that location changed. But the big change that I think you would be most concerned about that would actually change what you saw was we added the PlanCon Part B pages. Now, I explained at the last meeting that the reason that our total estimated amount was a little bit different was the way that the PlanCon Part B pages worked and how we had to follow PlanCon in order to get those estimated amounts. So let me flip through here quick. So I'm gonna skip some of these items and we'll come back to the fun stuff. There we go. So you have these pages starting on, I think it's page 16, but those pages are the actual from PlanCon Part B. It's how we fill out that PlanCon Part B, total estimated amount for the project, and we work through that. So once you get down to the last page there, it's page 19, I believe, you can see here. So what we actually had typed in last time was that $12 million number. You can see PlanCon highlights that it should be the $11 million number with your other amounts added in. So your last page, that bottom line number, that 15 million, did not change. It's what we took as what was the approved PlanCon Part B amount from this line, this $11 million number. So that switched. You can see it's on page 19. This was the number we had. You can see in the box, in the document, it clearly says, this is not the number for the board to approve, it's this number. I apologize for that confusion. Just, you know, we pulled those line items from PlanCon Part D, page 20, line I. And this one was the one that was there. So that final total amount that you've been seeing, that you heard about previously, that has not changed. It's just a kind of their form number of how we have to do this. This is the number that we use. That $11 million number is the total building construction cost without any of your contingencies, without any of your escalation fees, without any of your fees to pay the architect, the civil engineer, without any of your site costs. So that is the total build construction cost. That's that number. That's that number that PlanCom looks to track to say, okay, the cost per student, the cost per square foot per student, this is the amount that makes sense for us to build a pre-K through 5th grade elementary school project. We're doing 4th, but they have it pre-K through 5th. So that's the explanation for how they organize their numbers and where we're getting that from. Again, we fill out that PlanCom Part B as we're supposed to. You now have all of those sheets to look through if you would like to. They are part of the booklet that will be made public, that the public can also look at these sheets as well. So that, as I said, is the biggest change besides some of those smaller items, organizational items, updates. And this is now what that approval looks like for that maximum building construction cost and what will be improved. So you can see here on that, it's called out which line we should be pulling this from. The other project costs, which includes your site costs, includes FF&E, includes contingencies and civil engineering fees, architectural fees, those items, and maximum project cost that we will not be going over. Again, this number, as we discussed last time, is a little bit different than the number that I showed you in our final presentation in September, and that is only because of how we had to track the different bonds with interest and how it has to be filled out in that PlanCom Part D form. But this is still, it's only off by, well, I don't want to use the word only. Our final estimate in September was about 15.2. This is 15.5, but that wiggle is just because what you've already taken out versus what then we'll be tracking again.
Is that page a part of this
Yes, it
booklet
is.
that I'm looking at here?
Last page.
That was laying here?
Yes.
I'm not
26,
finding it.
26,
Last page.
page 26.
Couple more.
One
It
back,
looks
yeah,
like-
one back. There you go.
Oh, there it is, okay. All right.
So, again, this a booklet, the approval of the maximum construction cost and the Act 34 hearing is triggered by the fact that the new addition is more than 20% of the square footage of the existing building. That's kind of what triggers this. And then the availability to the public for review, for comment, is just, based on the school district spending this amount of money, what those project needs are, what the background is, and what their approval cost is. There's it's a possibility, but that's not what our goal here is. Obviously, the way that we're designing and working with the project and how far we've been focused on our construction estimates, there's always the need possibility for, if it comes in over the maximum building construction cost, you do have to hold another Act 34 hearing to the public and allow for comment at that time. But that is hopefully not something that is going to happen. That's not our intent, and that is not how we're designing the building for this. So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on the further process of what you're approving.
By approving this, by voting in the affirmative and approving this particular document tonight,
Yes.
we're locked in. At that point, we're locked into doing this construction project?
No, you're approving the maximum project cost, maximum building construction cost. At the time when the bids come in for the project,
Okay.
you'll have the bids, you'll be able to review the bids, and then you'll have the bid approval that will be taking place in March. This doesn't lock you into having to do a construction project.
Okay.
This is locking in for the amount that the school board and the school district understand that this is the maximum amount you'll be spending on the
Okay.
project.
All right.
So
Okay.
you can approve or disapprove at a later date for the actual building of the project.
And this means nothing.
I mean, it means something in the sense that it is available to the public for review. So if there's questions that the general public has had, I know if you're in conversation, the neighbors of the school district and students and parents, they'll be able to read this document. This is the document that'll be available for them to review and for them to then make comment at the hearing. And that hearing will be in December 20th. Yeah.
Then after the vote.
Yes, so you have to approve the booklet for the public to see and review and find out about more information about the project in order for us to hold the hearing on December 20th, at which time public comment can be made. And those comments can be addressed by the board, can be documented, and we can decide whether they need to be taken action to put into the project or whether they're items that we've already reviewed but are still concerns. So.
Thank you.
And Gareth, that's pretty much how you see this as well. We're voting on this booklet, which is the max amount, but we're also kind of moving forward to put this out to the public, and we're kind of authorizing a public meeting in December.
Yeah, all school districts have to follow this process, so we've seen this format and resolution many times in other districts. It's a required step of the process to move it forward so we can have the hearing on December 20th and put this up for public review and public comment. So it's exactly in line with what we're used to seeing at this point in the process.
Questions about the booklet before Alicia? John? All right, thank you.
I did have a few other updates, which I don't have to show you. I put in some interior renderings. That's where we currently are in the process. We've had one meeting with the administration team in our interiors department. So we are in draft review. I just wanted to continue to update the board with further information as we move along in this process. So I know last time you saw this, there were a few questions on green and blue classrooms. So you have first grade, you have special education, and those items. But you know, the added layer as we move through this, we went through the Act 34 booklet again. I sent it to PDE reviewed, we got their comments back. So you have the finalized Act 34 book, but also within the past month since you saw me last, we went through this interior process. So we have some renderings. Again, this is kind of our first round. So we did get some comments and we'll be, reviewing and adjusting, but this is your typical kindergarten classroom, what you're seeing here. And we focused on kind of primary color floor patterns with accent walls in each classroom. This one we're showing is blue. We're working through with the administration team on whether that accent wall should be blue, green, maybe we should be pulling in maroon. So there's some items that we're still working through that we'll be updating, but I just wanted to give you that. Classroom perspective from outside of the library addition. The library has full glass. We're reviewing with whether we're going to have a full pattern wall, what the durability is of that, whether we should accent it and bring it up so that, at the lower levels, it doesn't get damaged. We are keeping kind of the blue-green pattern through the hallway that's moving through. What you're looking at is right inside the main entry vestibule. So you're looking from the library to the main entry vestibule, and then your group toilets and faculty toilets are kind of off here to the right. From inside the library looking back out. So you were kind of just standing by the, why am I blanking on that fire extinguisher cabinet right there. And so you're standing looking through what that space would be like. You've got some teaching area, your bookshelves run along this whole wall. And there's some flexible furniture on the other side of the bookshelves as well. So again, we're working through, this is your main administration suite. The rendering kind of looks like this is not carpet. This is an area where we have carpet. We were looking at doing an accent wall. looking at if we're putting, Millersburg Area Elementary School, if that's kind of the name that we're going with, but for now, that's how we've been calling the school. So we're still kind of addressing what this overall looks like, but in the administration area especially is where we thought we would pull in kind of the maroon color of the district, one of the colors, just because it is kind of elementary schools usually aren't that involved in kind of the sports level, so we like to keep it fun and playful for the kids, but we also understand that the district has typical colors that we're using, so we're trying to find a balance of where we put that within the building. So those were just our last one, and then as we already saw, that 30 booklet pages.
Other questions, thoughts?
Nothing changed on the outside renderings?
No.
The elevations and?
Yeah, those have remained, as you saw. I did, if you need to see them again, I can go down.
No, I just
Okay.
made sure there were no changes in there from the last presentation that you gave us. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That will be on the agenda later. Moving into committee chair summary reports. I was not able to attend the budget, finance, or the human resources. Mrs. Mongo was able to do that for me. Thank you. Have any?
Just the minutes for the human resource meeting are available, and everything that is on the agenda tonight came out of committee with support. And same thing for budget and finance. I mean, there's nothing really outside of what's in the minutes for any of the three that I attended this month
Right.
as
You're
the
at
chairperson. So
policy
I'll just
wise,
throw ed
yep.
policy in there
Roll
too.
right
Yeah,
into that,
everything
yeah.
that's on the agenda came out of committee with support. For ed policies, we still are working on the details for the procurement card that we approved. So that, I believe, is on the agenda to be continued with our meeting this month.
I do have a question on the human resource meeting. And possibly I missed it in the packet here in the minutes. Paraprofessionals transferring sick days from a prior school. Is that going to be voted on tonight? I couldn't find it in that. I couldn't find it in.
There's
in
nothing on the
minutes
agenda
of
for approval tonight at the board level now.
It will be though. Or is this just going into effect because the committee said okay to it?
That was the conversation in the committee, and my interpretation coming out of the committee that, from a conversation from that standpoint.
So we move on it and the board is not going to get a chance to approve it or disapprove. Is that correct?
The will of the board.
Excuse me?
It'll be the will of the board if you want to bring it to the full board.
Well, it was, so we are voting on the purchasing, I would imagine, right? Or not?
They've already been.
They've already been here. So, I'm not sure that we'll be voting on it tonight. I guess we could.
Well, that's okay. That's fine. As long as we're going to get a chance to vote on it.
I guess
It's just
we can,
not going to go to effect because the committee said we agree with it. Because it was a committee of 4, I would
right.
assume.
That would make sense, yes.
So it's going to come to the board for a vote.
That makes sense.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's the only question I have.
Mr. Novinger, was there a facilities committee meeting?
No.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's move on to approval of minutes. We have the regular board meeting minutes from the October 18th meeting. We have the Ed Policy Committee from the 25th of October. We have Human Resources and Budget and Finance from November 1st. Does anyone want those handled separately? Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Miller, second, Mrs. Mongold. Any question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Report for board liaisons, Capital Area Intermediate Unit, Mr. Miller.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Are we not getting the monthly newsletter things anymore?
I am getting those. I would be happy to share those with you. The all in one?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I will attach that next month.
perfect, thank you. Harrisburg Area Community College,
Nothing.
thank you. Act 32.
We have a meeting tomorrow evening. So nothing to report this month. I should have something for you next month.
Okay, PSBA,
Nothing to report.
thank you. Budget and Finance, I'm sorry, Building Office, geez. Business Office Financial Report, Mr. Peter.
Yes, thank you. So we'll start with the district financial account reports of the general fund, capital reserve account, the Pliget account, and our food service account. There is really nothing noteworthy on any of those that I have to point out this month.
Any questions on any of those? If not, we're approving them right now, right? We approve them right now, or is it later? Okay, just making sure. I knew that we had moved some stuff around. All right, so is a motion to approve those reports? Mrs. Mongold, second. Mr. Eggleston, questions? All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Thank you.
Budget status reports then are revenue and expense budget summary. As you can see, those are in line with prior years, so everything continues to come in nicely with our budget. Again, nothing abnormal to point out there.
Any questions? A motion to approve the status report? Mrs. Mongold, second. Mrs. Gray? Any question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Activity account reports, anything to call out?
I do not. If there are any questions on the activity accounts, I would look to our principals to help answer those questions.
Are there any questions? A motion to approve? Mr. Eggleston, second. Mrs. Mongold? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills and disbursements, we have October 14th, October 28th, November 11th, and November 15th. Does anyone need anything handled separately? So a motion to approve, Mr. Bongo, second, Mr. Eggleston. Any question on anything? Comment, question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mr. Ender? I'm sorry. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Supervisor, so we'll go into staff reports. Supervisor of Curriculum, Mr. Leiter.
Good evening. Just a few points to note. I'd like to thank the Comprehensive Planning Steering Committee, which some of them are here tonight. We met in November. We met at the end of October and developed 3 goals that we thought we'd like to explore as a district, which was a relationships first goal, a student achievement goal, and a customization of student programs goal. I'm not going to read all the details to you that are under each of those, but just wanted to kind of create a scope of the 3 that the committee wanted to look at. I just want to make a quick thank you to Carla Sauer. She's the Director of Curriculum and Instruction at Halifax, and so far in this new role of mine, I've had to do a lot with federal programs at the beginning of the year. Carla has called me several times to say, hey, Mike, just so you know, you have this due in October. So she's saving me in that way. She just did that this month, and I just wanted to say it's a nice thing for her to do. I wanted to let you know that on November 2nd and 3rd, Dr. Richard Gentry was in town to do a writer's workshop training with elementary school teachers in their ELA block. Lisa Conrad was here to do some special education trainings on November 2nd and November 9th. And I also wanted to let you know that on November 11th, high school staff members were trained in the usage of smart futures. If you recall, we as a district have not had a good score on the Future PA Ready Index in the portion of having career readiness goals met, and getting teachers trained in smart futures is our solution, part of our solution to that problem. So As a last note, I do want to say I'll be out of the district tomorrow. I'm getting ahead of myself because I asked Amber to say this and now I'm saying more than I should. But Amber and I are traveling to Shippensburg tomorrow to recognize Kelly Border, one of our middle school teachers, for an outstanding teacher award, and I thought she should be commended for that. So I'll entertain questions if you have it.
So the comprehensive plan, you said the steering committee met, came up with 3 goals. What's the next step?
So the next step is for me to take that information and encapsulate it in some broad goals. They asked for broad goals. So I actually emailed what I created out tonight. After I get some feedback, I'll create the next part, which is the action steps. After the action steps, I have to complete the professional development. I have to create the professional development plan. So I'm a little bit behind in that the professional development plan, after it's created, we have to post it for 30 days for public approval. So we have to, the board will then have to approve that professional development plan, the induction plan, which has been posted for 30 days. So there's sub-plans that the board will need to approve before you can approve the whole comprehensive plan document. So there's some steps we do have to go through.
Is the public involvement completely done with that process, or are there other public involvement pieces?
The public involvement process is ongoing, especially through email. At this point, I'll wait for feedback to see how much they want to get together in person, or if they want to use email or some other means to get their points across. Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Witt?
I apologize, so I don't have anything underneath my section this evening. I don't have updates to any of the numbers, so just to let you know, status quo there. It's really about Lisa Conrad's presentation, so I want to just piggyback on that and say that we had some areas that we wanted our regular education teachers at the elementary, middle, and high to hear about. Those were the areas of inclusion and the need to increase that. We also talked to them about least restrictive environment and the need to increase that. And we talked about confidentiality. So those 3 topics came out of our audit, and we needed to meet with all teachers on those 3 topics. And so she did a really nice job and presented to all the levels at the beginning of November at their meetings. So I just wanted to thank her, and thank you, Mr. Leiter, for mentioning that. But really good information that she was able to share out with staff. So other than that, there's no other major events that are happening in special ed at this time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Troutman?
All right, good evening. Couple things in addition to what I do have posted under my name in Agenda Man. The one thing that I did, I actually found that the freezer was malfunctioning, as you read in there. Again, it was because of our ATC system. I do go back and run trends on all the pieces of equipment, and I saw that it wasn't running properly again. There was no food that was unsafe or anything, so I just want to make sure everybody knows that. So it was caught in time before it was a big issue. There was another thermistor that went bad in our walk-in cooler. The replacement part for that was $198, and I refused to pay that because all I needed was a thermistor. So I got a $15 thermistor and fixed that problem. So I'm able to, again, run trends on everything, and I just did kind of work around to get that one up and running. Again, I keep a real close eye on those types of things. All the rooftop units are winterized for the winter. Traps won't freeze or anything up there. Mrs. Rumberger had asked me already about the mag locks installation at Lankerville. Just this morning, I talked to Eric True at Sage, and tentatively, if they get the equipment in their hands, if they have the equipment, the week of December 5th, it's going to be installed tomorrow at 8:15. I meet with one of the installers to go over exactly how they're going to install these units at Lankerville. So you will see people over there tomorrow with me, one person and me. So, but they're not installing tomorrow. So just looking over. If there's any questions, I'll certainly be happy to entertain them.
Thank you.
Just have a curiosity question. Tonight's weather brought it to mind about our snow removal. Do we have, is there any sort of a plan or thought or theory if we get snow on that elementary roof? I know that that's kind of a structural concern and so forth. Do we have anything in place as far as once it meets certain criteria, we're shoveling it off, or is that unsafe to even do that? Like, what does that look like, Dan?
So we definitely don't, we're working with a structural engineer, and we have been ever since the problem was discovered, the engineering. So I do, and I'll be doing it tomorrow. I went in to do it today, and Mrs. Leitner was in her room, so I'm gonna do it tomorrow. But I do periodic surveillances there, not inspections or surveillances. I go up, flashlight, I take pictures of it, I can compare them to the last pictures I took. Okay, I don't see anything else. Again, Mr. Chudley, who is a structural engineer, does come back about every 12 months. It's due. Or if there is a heavy snow, like real slushy snow, and then it rains on top of it, or snow and then it rains on top of it. So those ideal situations, and I do go up and I peek over the roof and make sure how much snow's up there. Again, keep a close on it. After it snows, I'm doing my pictures. I get a ladder out, move ceiling tiles, except in the quiet room now, that area. But no, we definitely won't shovel it all. That rubber is super fragile, and those areas that are identified, we're not supposed to walk on them. The fire company has pictures. I mean, nobody walks. Nobody catches fire. Nobody goes on them sections, and they're aware of that. So again, everything's well documented and the procedures.
So we're basically at the mercy of whatever the weather gives us.
Correct.
No,
Yeah, if we get a
no
heavy,
remediation that we can do.
No. If we get a heavy snow, we have to, again, per Chudley's report.
Yeah.
We give them a call. You come down and do an inspection on this. You're a structural engineer. I am not. I'm just there to visibly look in between his inspection times.
Okay.
So, yeah, winter time, I definitely beat that up and do that a lot more.
Yeah, it started a little earlier than I was hoping this year. But,
Me too. I'm ready for spring.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chauvin?
I really like snow, but that's none of my report. My report's there in front of you. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to entertain those, or any other questions you have about the high school. Lots going on. The one thing I want to point out is that we're very proud that girls soccer, boys soccer, girls volleyball, and our boys football teams all made it to the district level this year. That has never happened in the 8 years I've been here. Unfortunately, we didn't bring home a district crown, but the girls soccer made it as far as the quarterfinals. That was fantastic. Proud of all of our teams, and the kids are very proud of making it that far too. So if anybody has any questions about anything else, I'd be glad to answer those at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Zoe?
I'm half asleep, sorry. Well, Mr. Later already stole my thunder, but I'm going to still say we're really excited and proud of Mrs. Border and excited to recognize her for being an outstanding teacher, of which she is. So that we are headed down tomorrow to Shippensburg University and celebrate and recognize her. Another exciting thing was we had an author come in to do a visit on October 20th. And he was phenomenal. I've worked with him before. He gets the kids writing, motivated, excited. And we had 3 flash fiction finalists, it's hard to say, and one of which now is working, and she's been so phenomenal and excited about working and writing her own book that will be published, and we'll have like a big unveiling here. So that's a really cool experience, I think, for a kiddo. So super thank you. PTO paid for him to come in. I think that was money well spent and an exciting, cool opportunity for those kiddos. Last thing, we have a lot going on, they're all in your notes, but last thing, I also wanted to thank Mrs. Sweppenheiser for organizing this endeavor that we had all of our middle school kiddos paint rocks for the military personnel and veterans at Fort Indiantown Cap. And so she took care of delivering all the materials, the kids painted, did an awesome job. She delivered them, and she said the reception was very appreciative and excited to see that the kids took time. It paired up with letters from Lankerville, so it was a cool thing. We were really excited about it. Proud of the kids for doing that. Any questions for me on any of the other notes that were in there?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton.
Okay. Yeah, just to piggyback, Ms. Owen, just about letter, the Dear Hero letters. Thank you, Ms. Webenizer, for doing that. Kids liked writing those letters. I know she said that the troops at Fort Indian Town Gap always look forward to them, so that was great. The Halloween parade was held on October 28th. It was a great turnout from the community. I know the students, staff, everybody had a great time doing that. My first time on the route, I was ready to keep going and take us over the mountain, but we turned back to the school. Thanks to the fire company leading the way. Band was great. They put on a little performance at the end for staff and students, so that was great. On the staff end, one of our initiatives this year is implementing PBIS into our school, the positive behavior intervention supports, and part of that is getting our staff trained. And so that last week, myself and 5 of our PBIS team members went to the IU, did an all-day training, really focusing on the why of PBIS in our schools, and gave us some really initiatives that we are going to be pushing throughout this year. We call this year kind of our soft launch of PBIS, and the next year being a full-blown or 2.0 launch. But we have someone from the IU coming next month to our faculty meeting to do some more training staff-wide, and then we are visiting the IU 2 more times later this year with their staff members to keep developing our plan and getting our school-wide mission and vision for PBIS. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Great. Oh, and thank you, Mr. Troutman. He is, like I said to him, we're underpaying him for his services of getting that our heater up and our boiler up and running. He's like an old clocksmith from, that you can go around the world.
I don't want to talk about
Mr. Petrie.
Yes, just a few comments on action items this evening, and I'll talk about the second and third bullet first. You will see tonight an agreement for News Story for tuition. That is a new student that has moved into the district. And also there is the agreement for Yellow Breeches. That had previously been for 2 students. One of the students attending there had moved to Halifax, I believe. So this is a new agreement reflecting a slot for 1 student. And if there are any questions about either of those, I would look to Mrs. Wicht to help you out with those. The other item, and I'll look to Gareth on this one, we have the Apogee agreement on here tonight to approve. We received the agreement today, I believe it was, and we put that on the agenda, and Gareth took a look at it. Had some concerns with it. We went back to Apogee. Their attorney looked at Garrett's comments and got back to us, which I think is satisfactory at this point. So we will look to approve that agreement tonight conditionally with solicitor review and approval. And Gareth, do you want to chime into any of that if I didn't cover it correctly?
Yeah, the main issue was the section 4 on the term. It's a 5.5-year agreement, but section 4 in the original version basically stated you can't terminate the contract unless you pay all fees for all years, which is $40-something thousand. That was a concern to me, and we asked that they revise that language to give you the opportunity to terminate early without penalty. And just an hour ago or so, I saw their response that they're agreeable to that. They sent revised language addressing that concern. So I'm comfortable if it's approved pending final wordsmithing, and speaking with Eric, it will not be signed and implemented until we're comfortable with the language, but it looks like they're agreeable based on the response we just had. Happy to answer any questions on that.
Based on that, do we need to vote on this?
Well, we are asking for a vote on it tonight, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Without solicitor he's not satisfied at this point, if I understood what you just said? You want to look at it again?
I'm satisfied with Aptigy's response to us today. They've sent revised language for section 4. It just needs to get cleaned up, added into the agreement. And once I'm comfortable with it, I'll let Eric know, and then it can move forward. So I'm keeping it, I'm comfortable keeping it on the agenda with that caveat, just so you're aware it will not be signed until I sign off on the revisions.
And based on that, I question why we vote on it.
So I think we're voting on it because Gareth is comfortable with the response he got. It's just words to make it pretty.
Okay.
But the agreement in principle.
All right.
Right, the costs presented aren't impacted at all by the changes. It's just changes in the terms, but the costs are as presented. The other item I would like to share this evening deals with our adjusted index for the 23-24 school year. As you can see, we got word that our adjusted index for next year will be 5.5%. I gave you a little history there of our adjusted index, so that's informational for you. What will come next is the traditional resolution, not tonight, but in a future meeting very soon, to where we say we are not going out on exception. We're not going to exceed the Act 1 adjusted index. So that is not on tonight's agenda, but will be on an upcoming meeting agenda to make that approval. If there are no questions, that will conclude my report.
Couple items, not necessarily listed on there, but I do want to thank Lori and Jen for being here tonight from Nutrition Inc. I just want to thank you for the work that all of you do. I think you do, your company and the staff that you have here, you do an excellent job at all of our buildings. I just want to recognize you for that, for your presentation and just the job you do on a daily basis. For some voting items tonight, we have, of course, we went through for the Act 34 booklet. There are some updated objective performance standards. And as we talk about what we are going to focus on from now till the end of the year, one of the conversations we were talking about there with Aptigy and updating our district website, so we're able to maybe increase some of the communication and just general information out to the public. Of course, we're working with our cyber charter enrollment and what strategies we can use here in the spring as we go forward, which is also the third bullet with that online academy coordinator job description that's up for approval tonight. And then the digital platforms coincides with our district budget, and just reviewing the technology that we are currently using and sort of taking an assessment of what that looks like going forward. What do we need? What do we maybe need to change out that will ultimately impact our budget process as we begin that here in the next few weeks. And so with that, I do also have, we started, providing that enrollment report on a monthly basis. I guess it was periodic in the last few years. So you can take a look there to see where our numbers are. And I will say, just speaking with Bobby and Eric and a few other people that's been involved, having that on a monthly basis is providing a good opportunity for several people to have discussion of where our numbers are at and what's being reported to the state. So it's been a good thing. And so if there's any questions on that, I'll take a look at those too. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So any questions? We can move into board action items, personnel. All right. First one is supplemental contracts for sports. And we have items 1 through 10. So girls basketball head coach, Mr. Chad Everhart, girls basketball assistant, Miss Alyssa Brocious, thank you. Girls basketball volunteer, Mr. Miller, Tiffany Miller, and Mrs. Paige Allman. Boys basketball head coach, Mr. Todd Wingard. Boys assistant, Mr. Lowell Rickard. Boys volunteer, Mr. Roger Durr. 7th and 8th grade boys basketball, Mr. Christopher Lukinich. 7th and 8th grade boys volunteer, Mr. Chad Grassmeyer, pending his clearances. Winter weight room, Mr. Whitman, and athletic event worker, Mrs. Melissa Long. Anybody need any of those separate? Yes.
3.
Any other ones? All right, so can I have a motion to approve number 3? Mr. Ableton, second, Mrs. Gray. Any question, which is just number 3? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Abstain.
Mrs. Mungold?
Abstain.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Now can I have a motion for items 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10?
So
Mr. Miller, second, Mrs. Mongold. Any questions? So this is all but 3. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item, these are all around the 2022-23 school musical. So we have director, Mr. Slemmer, assistant director, Mrs. Slemmer, set design construction, Mr. Slemmer, business manager, producer, Mrs. Slemmer, fit and band director, Mr. Campbell, choreography, Mrs. Sally Schaefer, costume and prop coordinator, Mrs. April Roble, pending update mandatory reporting training, lighting design and technical advisor, Mrs. Valerie Hall, volunteer assistant set construction, Mr. Jim Price, pending clearances. Do we need any of them handled separately? I have a motion to approve. Mrs. Mongol, second, Mr. Eggleston. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
No.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. See, moving down, resignation. No, I'm sorry, reassignment. I can't read new classes or something. The administration recommends the reassignment of Miss Jillian Folkrode effective October 22nd, 2022, from a part-time instructional paralegal to a substitute instructional paraprofessional. Geez, paralegal. From paraprofessional to a substitute instructional paraprofessional. Sorry, it's been a long everything. Have a motion to approve.
So moved
Mrs.
as
Mongold.
written.
Thank you, and a second by Mr. Miller. Yeah, whatever it says there. I got sort of the picture, but not all of it. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Oh, no, there's a lot of words here.
Boy.
Bet you $2 I don't do it. All right. All right, so we have 2 recommendations for employment. Recommended that Miss Emily Smith of Millersburg be employed as a full-time paraprofessional effective November 16th. Stipend for the position will be $10.40 per hour. Ms. Smith will have a 90-day probationary period pending receipt of necessary clearances, mandatory reporting training, and result of negative TB. So that is one for Ms. Smith. And then also recommended by the Human Resource Committee to employ Haley Carter from Elysburg as a long-term high school Spanish substitute. Awesome. Effective no later than January 3rd, 2023 for the remainder of the 2022-23 school year. Ms. Carter will be paid daily substitute rate of $150 per day until she reaches the 90 days of employment, at which time she'll be paid retroactively step 1 bachelor's of the current collective bargaining agreement. So we have Ms. Smith and Ms. Carter. Do I have a motion to approve? Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Miller, any question? Secretary call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Nobinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. And we have 2 FMLA leave requests. One beginning October 4th and one November 8th. Motion to approve. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Miller, any question? Secretary call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Nobinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. We have 2 resignations. It is recommended to accept the resignation of Mr. Chad Everhart, a 7th and 8th grade girls basketball coach, effective immediately. And it is recommended to accept the resignation of Mrs. Jennifer Wick, special education supervisor, effective December 21st, 2022.
So moved.
Mr. Miller, second. Mrs. Mongold, any question? Secretary call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Reluctantly so, but yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Nobinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Mrs. Wick, thank you very much for your time here. I think it's been very good, and I wish you the best. Where are you going next?
Pleasure, thank you.
Thank you. Online coordinator job description. It is the recommendation of the Human Resource Committee to approve the job description of online academic coordinator as attached. So we're just approving the job description. Mrs. Mongold, second. Mrs. Gray. Any question? Secretary call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Nobinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next is approval of substitute teacher. Administration recommending adding the additional individual to the 2022-23 substitute list, Mr. Alan Corson, pending receipt of updated clearances, mandatory reporter training, and result of negative TB tests. Motion approved. Mrs. Mungold, second. Mrs. Gray. Any question? Secretary call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Nobinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. We're recommended to approve the revised 2022-23 superintendent performance standards. Motion. Mrs. Mongold, second. Mrs. Gray. Any question? Secretary call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Nobinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. And I believe they need posted on the website now, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry. Next is the Act 34 booklet approval and project cost resolution. It is recommended to adopt the attached Act 34 booklet and resolution specifying a maximum project cost for the pre-K through grade 4 building addition. There's a motion. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Miller. Any question? Secretary call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungol?
Yes.
Mr. Nobinger?
No.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next is the IUP Field Experience Agreement. Administration recommends to approve the attached agreement with the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Can you give us just a few seconds on what that is?
Sure. So the department reached out from IUP to me and basically said their department was wishing to enter into an agreement so they could actually place a student here. And as I was pulling it up, as you were saying, so it says, good afternoon. I received a request from the Kinesiology, Health, and Sports Science Department at IUP, asked me to establish an agreement with Northburg. And so that is what I received from them, reached out, had Derek take a look at the agreement. I don't have additional information in addition to that at this point of who or what student they're thinking about placing. But to me, my interpretation of this is they have some interested student potentially of doing an internship here.
And there's no cost to the district, or anything like that? Anybody have any other questions? Motion to approve, Mrs. Mongol, second, Mr. Eggleston. Any other questions? Secretary call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungol?
Yes.
Mr. Nobinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the APTG. So the administration is recommending a move to APTG as our community engagement and communication system. It's like our website, right? This will replace our current, Blackboard website and introduce school messenger communication system. This will bring ADA compliance, mobile-centric features, and cost savings to the district. So the Educational Policy Committee unanimously recommended the purchase of APTG. We have a motion to approve. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Eggleston. Any question?
So just from a committee standpoint, this is one program to replace several, to streamline it, to have all of our pieces working together. And APTG is, it says in there, but mobile friendly, because most people are probably looking at our current website for information, which is not user friendly on a smartphone. And so this is putting all of those pieces into one thing that we're currently paying two companies for. So we're taking two bills and making it one bill.
I'm a member of the committee, the educational policies. It says unanimously. I agreed with that. I still agree with that. But I do not think this board should be voting on an agreement that has not been finalized by all parties, including our solicitor. And that's, I believe, what I heard earlier in the meeting. So we go from there.
Question, is this essentially software as a service that we're purchasing, the agreement, the platform that we can build upon? Are we building the website ourselves, or are they building it for us?
There's, what did they call that cost? There's setup cost. They will migrate whatever we want to migrate. There probably is, and maybe should be, some building of our own to rebuild it, reorganize it. So
I think there'll be some flexibility there. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's templates though that they're like, it's not free.
Right, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Other questions?
So the second product that it replaces is the school messenger, which is kind of the automated messaging. Is that correct? Is that my understanding? When does this cutover happen?
I think they wanted up to 60, 90 days to get us from our existing to the new.
So, and then during that process, then we'll basically be utilizing both, I would assume, until we're sure, because that's the announcements for safety, for everything. Like the automated.
I think that part of it we could work through, and if we wanted to extend that one service a little bit longer, if we think that would be better communication, a way to communicate until we get the switched over, I think we have options to look at.
But the new product, the AptG, still has some version of the old school text phone call notification method, not just website, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phone call, text, email, it will do all social media as well as the website.
Okay. But also the old school things that we're kind of used to, some of us that have.
Yes, and so that's the other thing that, at least for me, was appealing, because while I'm much younger than you are, I still am very much old school in a lot of places. So I do not have Twitter and those sorts of things. So the things that our principals are currently doing a great job putting on Instagram and social media will automatically be embedded to our website. So for those of us that don't have Twitter, can still see all of the good things that are happening in one spot instead of having pieces be all over. It's all the same information on different platforms, but it's very much supposed to be more user-friendly.
And also mobile friendly, which we had discussed at one point. It's all going to be more mobile friendly. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Yeah, killing me. Switch. Yeah, so you guys have all of the text in front of you. It's recommended to purchase SWIS at a cost of $350 per year for the middle school and $350 per year for the elementary school, for a total of $700 per year. Yeah. So I have a motion. Mr. Eggleston, second. Mrs. Mongold. Question.
So it mentions in that, all those words, it mentions the utilization of ESSER funds. I'm assuming that's just for this initial year, that request initially is funded by ESSER funds, but the ongoing will not be.
Correct.
Be out of our normal budget.
And it came out of committee, whether it fits ESSER, we could use that as a possibility, or general funds. So whichever one it fit into, I don't know that we have a determination if it fits into ESSER or not, but the committee's recommendation was to pay for it out of ESSER or general, whichever one works out the best.
For the initial year, for the first year.
And so again, if I can chime in from a committee standpoint, and Ms. Owen is still here, if anybody has specific questions, she can handle them better than I can probably. But this Swiss program is, the hope is that consistency from the elementary school to the middle school, it will allow the district to collect data for students in the discipline referral area to better serve our students and handle behavioral issues in a systematic way that both staff and students are familiar with from kindergarten through 8th grade. And it ties directly into, which is why it's just for Lankerville and the middle school right now, it ties directly into the PBIS and MTSS behavior programs that those two buildings are using. For the non-educator people.
Other questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold,
Yes.
Mr. Novinger,
No.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick.
Yes. The next item is a new story tuition agreement recommended by the administration to approve the tuition agreement with New Story for a new Millersburg student. Motion to approve. Mr. Eggleston, second. Mr. Michael. Any discussion? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold,
Yes.
Mr. Novinger,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick.
Yes. Next is a 2022-23 Yellow Breaches Agreement. It is recommended by administration to approve the 2022-2023 Yellow Breaches Agreement for one student at a total cost of $37,774, including transportation. Motion to approve. Mr. Miller, second. Mr. Eggleston. Any question? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold,
Yes.
Mr. Novinger,
Yeah.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick.
Yes. Board Member Sharon.
I have a couple of things on my list.
For sure.
As I usually do. So October activities, I have two little ones at the elementary school. There was tons of great stuff from window painting to the Halloween parade. It was good to see lots of community members in the streets of Winkerville supporting our younger students. I would like to make a special shout out to Dr. Petishnik. He walked in the parade as well. And in my, I don't know, I have a 7th grader, so 8 years of being a parent, that's the first time that I have seen the superintendent attend the Halloween parade and walk as participant. So I thought that was great. Shout out for the elementary school staff for parent-teacher conferences. I know we're out of COVID and many of us are excited to be back in person, but I do know that parents have busy schedules. So I just wanted to say that I thought that it was fantastic that there was still an opportunity for Zoom to make it easier for parents who have kids at different buildings to not have to get from the elementary school to the middle school and feel rushed. So I appreciated that flexibility. Another thing that is new this year, and I appreciate as a parent, district-wide spirit weeks are fantastic because it really does help keep things consistent. My little people feel cool because they're dressing like my middle schooler, and it helps with the disagreements before school about what actually Spirit Day is today. Are we supposed to wear brown? Are we supposed to wear animal print? What is even happening? Can we all just go to school? So I appreciate those as a parent more and more every time. And it also helps when they know what their outfit's supposed to be. So keep it up. Every year should, every week should be a spirit week. And the middle school author assembly, my middle schooler is still talking about that. They had a great time. So I appreciate that. PTO, thank you for giving our kids opportunities like that. And hopefully when that book is published, we get her here to really shout her out for how awesome that is. And then just board members, people in the audience, upcoming holiday concerts. They're always a fun time. So I would encourage you all to attend to listen to our musical students with the holiday concerts coming.
Anyone else?
So something to piggyback on what Neil mentioned, as well as the elementary and middle school reports, was the amount of work that the PTO is doing for us, and how appreciated it is by administrators and kids and everything else. I just wanted to mention that for those of us that may use Amazon once in a while to buy things, There's the Amazon Smiles program where you can give, I think it's 1% of your spending goes toward a charity. Lankerville PTO is my charity, and unfortunately, with my business account, so that, you're welcome. So I probably bought some rocks. But I don't know if anybody knows about that, and if you aren't already giving something via that, I'm sure the PTO can use it and put it to good use. I appreciate all your work with that. And the only other question I had was, what did you go dressed as for your costume for, as a superintendent?
As a superintendent, I was trying to dress as a superintendent.
I thought so.
Room for improvement for next year, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Costume
Yeah.
improvement.
Yeah.
You will be graded.
That was, I thought that's what he was going for.
Any other board comments? So I just have a couple things really quickly. So nutrition group, absolutely, thank you. Everything I've ever had from you is wonderful. And we continue to appreciate our agreement with you guys. Very excited to spend the money on a musical again this year. Very, very much looking forward to that, and seeing what our students can do. PTO, PTAs, PT, all of the letters. I just echo, my son's a junior now, and I never realized how much stuff you guys do for the district until, part of it all. It is really important, especially at our small district, to make things happen and make opportunities. And yeah, you beat me to the concerts, but
Sorry.
definitely come out and listen to everybody. We have a lot of great students who work really hard, and a lot of great teachers who are helping them. So that's all I have. Remember board, we have a picture before we can leave. We have a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
That was silly.
Thank you.
Amber, can you take a picture?
That's great person.
You can go ahead and shut it off.
Oh, shut it off.
I know, I see the lights on, and I'm still happy.
Yeah.
I do have a really good note. Because I'm sitting here and every time I get I smell the back burn popcorn, and I'm like, oh, God, I did not forget about me. It's all right. That's it.